So, this seminar is sort of a zoom in with a title of how do you handle, or the answers the question, how do you handle pain, grief, sadness, and anger? And the question is, do you know how to process those kind of emotions? In one sense, this is an adjunct to, or the second part of the thing that I did this morning, which is how do you avoid burnout? How do you heal from burnout? So it's a very important component. So that's what we're talking about today. And so the question I have for you first is, what is your theology of emotion? What were you taught about emotions in church? And this is going to be more discussion oriented. I'm going to be giving you things to do as exercises here. But I'd love to hear, what have you been taught about emotions in church? You're smiling.
Well, I love that question.
Okay.
I believe that God has emotion, and we represent God, and I believe that emotion is a gift from Him to me.
Yes. Okay. Were you taught that in church?
I'm very old. I have no idea where I am.
Okay. That's fair. Others. Thank you. Others.
I would say I wasn't part of the church. Church has progressed from pretty stoic about emotions.
Yeah.
In my experience, to more embracing.
When it was stoic, what were you taught?
It's that probably a flavor of that American rugged individualism. Don't let them see you sweat. Don't show the cracks.
Okay. So don't be too emotional.
Yeah.
Don't show it. Okay. Okay. All right. Others. Yeah.
Since I would say about the same, and it was almost there are some emotions that are acceptable in the church.
Ah, like what?
Well, joy. You know,
Joy.
and what that would,
The
experience
joy of the Lord is your strength. Yes. Okay. Good. What else? What other emotions are expected?
Like, the fruit of the Spirit.
Mhm.
Good things.
Yeah.
So,
Joy, peace.
long suffering.
Yeah. Okay. Were you going to say the similar thing? Say it. I didn't hear you. Oh, okay.
Something to do between the two.
Okay. Well, what? Yes.
I think
Oh, sorry.
it was that we were, I don't know if it was tied to emotions, but don't let any crack show.
Okay. All right. Don't show the real thing. Yeah. Did,
But, yeah.
What she said is that churches, a lot of churches, not everyone, but don't, emotions are bad, don't show them that you can't have them.
except for the joy.
Even though everybody has them, they want you to bottle them up,
Right.
which is not.
Excuse me. Well, and they want you to bottle up the negative emotion. Don't be sad. Don't be angry. You can be joyful. Don't be anxious, right? That's some of the message that we get in church, I think. Depending on your church, obviously.
The inner question seems that if you go back, what is my theology?
You're right. You're right. That is a very different question, which she answered. And we'll come back to that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one thing with the theology of emotion is that when I think of a train that engine,
Yeah.
the whole car, and moves.
Yep.
I have the back of God's word in that engine. I have the whole car in the faith that strengthens that.
Yep.
And it produces the emotion. Normally the train is going this way, you can't have the emotion whole train.
Right. So the emotion's the caboose. It's in the back, and it's being led by your faith and the Word of God, etc. Okay. And then the other question is, yeah, I guess I got ahead of myself on that slide, so let's go to the next slide. What were you taught, or what was caught about emotion in your families, your family of origin? For example, were you encouraged to show emotion, or were you told to stuff it? Or you could only say certain emotions, but not others, right? So that's an important thing to ponder as we talk about processing emotion. Okay. Any responses to that?
In my experience, in my family, what emotions is that nobody cared.
Nobody cared. So did anybody say, how are you doing?
Not a lot.
You know, other than a greeting.
Barely got to love other people.
Say it again.
My family barely expressed love.
Okay.
And got older,
Right.
so
Right. By the way, a little disclaimer. I have this thing on my head. It's a bone-anchored hearing aid because I was in the middle of a counseling session and I lost my hearing. Yeah, right. It went pop just like that. And so this thing helps me hear, but it's not great. And I have no directionality, so when you talk, I have no idea who's talking. It was really weird. I got this thing. This happened to me like 12 years ago. In the middle of a counseling session, I immediately became dizzy. I lost my balance. So when I walked into church, I'd look like I'm drunk. And I have tinnitus going full-time, 24 hours a day. So if I stumble up here, I'm not drunk. Just telling you. I do get a little dizzy, but I have a hard time hearing. So it's helpful if you raise your voice and I don't have to go, what, like that all the time. All right, but I asked the question, what was taught and what was caught? Because sometimes you're not taught explicitly things, right, but you catch them in the way people behave. And so, you know, your example there, you know, nobody really cared. That's probably pretty typical in some families. Like, nobody was really caring how you felt. You know, it's what you do if you perform, etc. So we'll just keep that in mind as we go through here. So let me give you a little background in my view and a little bit of theology of emotion in my view. All right? If you think about the fact that God makes us in his image and we have certain capacities. And so we're made in his image as personal beings, which mean we were made for relationship. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Love your neighbor as yourself. And so we're made for connection with other people. Secondly, we are rational beings. God is rational. He thinks. He's very rational. He invented the sciences. He invented logic. He invented math. If there wasn't a God, we wouldn't have these things. And so we are rational beings, and we're called to think logically and rationally. And if we do logic and think rationally, guess what? We're imaging God. Now, I know that might conflict with some people's theology, because people think in terms of, well, that's not spiritual. You're being rational. That's as opposed to spiritual. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Let's not go too fast here. We're also made as emotional beings with feelings. Jesus wept. God beamed with delight over his creation. If you read through the Psalms, 40 to 50% of the Psalms are laments. They all express emotion, even anger, even sadness, even betrayal. Lord, where are you? Why have you forsaken me? How long? Right? And then we're also volitional beings. We are choosing beings. God is a being who makes choices. He moves with direction. And so he is a volitional being, and we too make choices. We are volitional in our outlook. Now, a really healthy human being is their circles, their capacities are filled. Like if I'm an emotional being, I'm going to feel emotion to the fullest. I'm also going to think really well. Now, we all know people who are really, we'd say, oh, she's too emotional, or she's too intellectual. Right? But really, when you do math to the glory of God, you're honoring God and you're imaging God. There's nothing more spiritual about doing math than there is about preaching. So we're called to be whole human beings. Now, I'm going to be focusing really on emotions here, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there. And so, one other point. Emotions are incredibly important. But we often feel before we think. Have you ever been scared? You know, you're feeling something before you putting language to it or thought to it. And we also have thoughts which impact our feelings. So it's not just one or the other. Feelings impact thoughts. Thoughts impact feelings. It goes round and round. And so the way you think is going to affect your emotions, and the way your emotions are going to affect you. So you get up, let's say you get up and you're feeling depressed or you're feeling sad and you don't know why, you may start to wonder about that, right? And it engages your mind. So these all work together. Now, the point here is that transformation, as well as maturity, requires emotional awareness. Key point here is emotional awareness. Unprocessed emotions do not die. They get buried alive. We've been taught in the Christian world oftentimes that you're not supposed to be sad, not anxious, don't be confused, walk with clarity of the mind, have joy. And what we tend to do is we tend to deny our emotion, and we stuff them. And that's one of the principles I just want you to get here is that unprocessed emotions do not die. They get buried alive, and they will come out in some other form. They'll manifest itself. So you keep stuff in anger, you may get an ulcer or high blood pressure. You keep stuffing sadness, maybe you get depressed. There's all kinds of relationships there. Now, if you want to engage in wise self-care and process emotions in a healthy way, you want to develop emotional awareness. What am I feeling? In addition to what am I thinking? And what am I choosing? Those are all important too, but I'm focusing on emotions today. So I want to do an exercise with you right now, and I'd like you to have a piece of paper handy, and I'm going to give you, let's just do 2 minutes, okay? And I'm going to ask you the question that I want you to write just top of mind, timing it. I want you to think about what emotions did you feel from the moment this morning you woke up to right now. Ready, set, go. Just another 20 seconds or so. Okay. What was that like for you? So what was that like for you to do that exercise? You're smiling? Like it? No.
You have to kind of unravel, you have to unpack.
What do you have to unpack?
Well, I would say that in a linear sense, just thinking back through what has occurred,
Mm-hmm.
and then how did that.
Okay. So you have to sort of linearly go back and start it, right? Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, I'm too intro. So
You're too introspective?
and so I kind of
Oh, you enjoyed it. Why is that unfortunate?
Well, why bother, why think about myself? You know, that's not okay with me. So,
Wait, say that again.
thinking about myself all the time is not okay.
Says who?
Says me, says God, says everything I think is odd.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Should I
I'm being
time?
honest.
I appreciate your honesty. I'm glad. I'm glad you're honest. Yeah. I'd love to interact with that, but
No, I just feel excitement that today I get to come in and experience this class for 43 years of my life, 70 now, trading commodities, moving around the country, buying, selling, and all that. So you think about a lot of the primary stressors and different things, the markets going up and down and stuff like that. So it's nice that when you're out counseling people,
Yeah.
and have a chance to
yeah.
get things that you can apply to yourself, this conference, that's how it can be effective.
Okay. All right. All right. So, how many people? I want you to count up how many emotions you wrote down. All right. So how many have 15? How many have 10? You have 10. 13. Okay, good. So we got 13, 10. How many have 10, 5 or more? Oh, no, that's not the right way to say it. How many have, yes, between 5 and 10? Okay. How many have under 5? Okay. Now, how many have 1 or 2? Okay. So what does that tell us about your access to emotion? And by the way, just if you put down 1 or 2, doesn't mean necessarily that you only have 1 or 2. It may mean that you haven't been able to access or think about that. You know, there's a lot of emotions out there, and some of us don't even have the vocabulary for emotions. But let me ask this: for those of you who have more than like 8 to 10, who'd be willing to just read through the list of emotions that you have? You're looking at me like I'm asking a personal question here.
The vulnerability is, do they actually all qualify as emotions would be mine.
Well, that's okay. It's not a test.
I'll read.
All right, great. Nice and loud.
Happy,
Happy.
peaceful, kindness, hopeful, joyful, familiarity, affection, encouraged, educated, blessed.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Those are great. I envy you.
It took a while to get to them.
Well, I gave you 2 minutes. That's not a very long time at all. All right. Who else? I want to hear some others. You have 3? Okay. Go ahead.
Stress, tense.
Wait. I'm sorry. What the first one?
Stress.
Stress.
Hands. Anxious.
Okay. Anxious was right before she came to this room thinking, is this going to be any good? Okay. Anxious, stress. What was the middle one? Tense? Tension. Okay. All right. One other one. Yeah.
I had tired, excited, expected, behind. That I need to surrender, inadequate, and with that I put in my devotions, harried, and am I enough? Worried,
Wow.
and then resolve.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So there's a lot there, right? A lot there. Am I enough? Right? Inadequate or adequate. Right? These are really, really interesting emotions to be in touch with. The fact that you could just go back and do that. So now, if you've never done this before, I don't expect you to be able to just dive right into it, but to the extent you can, that's great. The thing I want you to see, though, is simply that you have emotions, and you are not necessarily in touch with the emotions, and you go through your day without being in touch with what you're feeling. God has given us a gift of emotion. He's given us the gift of emotions. It's not something to be just cut off and suppressed, and I'll show you why in a few minutes. But many of us have learned to cut off emotion. We don't like it. I mean, who the heck wants to be in pain? Right? If I'm stressed, who wants to enter into that and feel that? Right? But again, God's given us emotion to experience, and I think in the Christian world we underplay and underestimate the importance of that. Now, what I'd like to do is do another exercise with you called Explore the Iceberg. Now, I'm going to rush this exercise for the sake of time, so I'm going to give you 4 questions that I want you to have a piece of paper handy, and stop, reset. Okay, so I'm going to give you like a minute to a minute and 30 seconds for each question that I give you, and it'll appear up here. Don't look on your sheet right now. Just I want you to focus on the emotion that I ask you about, not just the emotion, but you'll see in a minute. I want you to list top of mind things that come to you, okay? So the first question is, whoops, wrong way. What are you mad about? And as you think about the question, what are you mad about? I just want you to list any of the things that you're mad about. And it can be from the past. It can be right to the present. Anything that comes to mind that you're mad about. Okay? Just list it. Even if you feel it, that's okay. If you don't feel it, that's okay. But just go into it. Go. What are you mad about?